turn the goddamn air off.
I'm burning up.
I'm over here turning like a fucking snowman.
Well, I'm having a hot flash.
We'll be Jack Frost by the end of this.
As it relates to your mom and the relationship that you have, obviously being her daughter, much different than kind of like with when you're working with your own stroke survivors.
Yeah.
And I don't think this is isolated to just people who have strokes. I think this is isolated to a lot of people, because a lot of people, what I'm about to say, they are in victim mode. And what it sounds like to me right now with your mom is that she is in victim mode.
Yeah, lately she has been. It's only been like a week, and she's, I don't know, like I don't know. It's tricky because if you asked her, I think she'd say that she isn't really, because as soon as this happened, I'd say she had a couple of days of being like that. But then after that, she started moving every part of her body. She really fought to get it back. Like, she's where she's at because she did a lot in the hospital. Mm-hmm. So that was her working really hard. And so I don't know if that was victim mode, but coming home, I feel that I've noticed it's easier to learn to live with the disability than it is to 24/7 attempt things that you're going to fail at, and then have to witness the failure, and then have to be in the victim mode at that moment of failing. Do you get what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. I think that that's what I'm noticing, because I've asked her to do a few things and then she fails at it, and then she breaks down and just cries. Then we have that moment. Then it's, this is sad. I don't want to live like this. That all happens. But if she just learns to live with this and she doesn't even attempt anything, and we just live a whole day without doing any kind of rehab, she doesn't cry or get upset or think, why did this happen to me? Do you know what I mean? So then it's like she keeps herself in a positive mindset, but then she goes in a negative mindset when she's fighting it. So I can see why only 90%, like when 10% are the only ones that make a full recovery, 90% don't make a full recovery. It would be easier to just live with the disability, not deal with the failure.
I don't know if that's true or not. I mean, in the short term, you might think that, or she might think that, this is just too much work. My dad was like that too, with his back surgery. And that's the reason why the doctor told him not to get too used to the wheelchair. Don't go to the wheelchair, especially initially, unless you just have to. Mm-hmm. Because that's the path of least resistance.
Yeah. And I feel like once we got that wheelchair, the wheelchair kind of is like something we like do everything with. I'm like, we can't even move this thing down the hallway. And she can walk with a walker. Yeah. So we had to sit down as a family the other day, and I was just like, we're taking the wheelchair away. Yeah. We're taking it away, as scared as you are. And it might even be more work for us, but we need to just take the wheelchair away.
Yeah. I think what happens too is in the beginning.
Charlie, if you can hear us, we can't hear you.
I've realized.
Oh, I hear you.
Go ahead, Charlie.
Oh, can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I was just saying, I've realized, I hope I never get in a bad situation with homegirl, because I know
I know where he's
I would
going.
be shit out of luck.
Why is that?
That's it. She's just mean and harsh and like a bully. I'm like, fuck that.
No, I'm not. He just can't handle the real world. No, he's personally seen me be tough. He's just seen me be tough, and I think he's more sympathetic for the person than I am.
It's not an easy spot to be in, that's for sure.
Mm-mm.
Oh yeah, I agree.
Tough love is really tough.
I know, and then you have to find that line where you're being tough, and it's like it's tough love, but it's not being a bully. Like, you have to find that line.
That, and you have to find
and be okay with sometimes coming off as the bully.
Well, but you as the person that's on that side, you have to be able to figure out an eloquent way to be strong and tough, because you can come off the wrong way.
You can go too far,
and then you can turn them off.
Yeah.
That's why I mean that you're in a very tricky situation. Mm-hmm. Because I don't think you've ever done what you're like. If you've gotten pretty hard with your mom, have you ever done that to your clients, your stroke clients here? Because I don't think you have.
No, I don't think I've had. You
Why?
know, I've been motivating. I've been motivating to my clients. I didn't have to give them. I've never given them tough love. I've just been motivating. So they come in and they're having a bad day. They couldn't do one thing that they could do the day before. So then I have to pull this like motivator out of me.
Okay, stop right there. So why aren't you doing that more with your mom? I'm just playing devil's advocate.
No, totally. So with my mom, I do that, but it's not enough. And I think it's because I'm like living with her and I'm with her 24/7.
Yes.
So I can do that. But when we're sitting there, like brushing her teeth every single night and she's not attempting to use her left side of her arm at all, then it's like, then it just kind of turns into a more of a tough love of like, it's a motivator, but it's just different.
Yeah.
It's
Now you know how the people that are wives or husbands of wives, they're in a very hard spot.
Especially if they're independent, because then you don't want to make them feel really, really bad doing so many things for them as well. So then like I was like, oh man, she's super independent. I know that this sucks. So like I'm like helping lift her leg in the bed when she couldn't lift it in, and I'm thinking all she's thinking is, oh, I can't even lift my leg in this bed, you know? So, you know, there's that line, and then I don't know, there's a lot of lines.
I think that the tell in this thing for your mom and for other people is, and I've said it before, you have to be responsible for your own result.
That is so big.
That is huge.
And I think because she knows that this is something I do in my job, it's like, oh, you'll get me better. And it's like, I won't be the one that gets you better. I'll give you tools.
Their whole hands in life into
it's
a doctor or a therapist. And, you know, she really has to understand. People like that have to really understand what the consequences of that could be.
But I will say this, because I have been around this for 7 years. She hasn't. She hasn't been around this for 7 years. She's brand new to all of it. So I will say, I noticed yesterday, because yesterday was a big day for all of us. She's been home for like, what, 2 weeks?
Something like that, yeah.
She's been home for like 2 weeks. And we have been caregivers, and I'd say maybe somewhat enablers, because we've needed to. It's just more convenient for us at times, being that it's just me and my sister, and then I have a 7-year-old. So yesterday, I think I realized that my life is continuing to go. It doesn't just stop to be next to my mom 24/7. Yeah, my life doesn't stop. My son's life doesn't stop just to live her life. So I had to sit down with her and my sister and just be like, okay, like enough's enough. Like we have to all leap off of this cliff and know that there's a chance that things might happen. She might stumble, she might fall, she might take risks, you know, like we all have to do this together. But I just told them, I was like, the wheelchair is out. The wheelchair cannot be used in the house anymore. I don't want her in it. And then at the same time that I told her that, I was like, I want you to be using your arm more. And she was like, I can't use my arm. And I was like, you can't use it? Because see, the way she's thinking is I can't use it. Like she can't grab something and functionally use her arm. Yeah. But I was like, can you do a side lateral raise? And she did it. Can you do a front raise? She did it. Can you curl it? Yes. Can you push it down? Yes. Can you pinch? Yes. I was like, everything about your arm works. You just don't want to use it because you're failing at everything you're trying to use it for.
That's a tough obstacle to get over.
But it's like, I get it. And I tell her that, I'm like, I get it. I totally get it. But at least attempt to do that thing with that arm 3 times. And then on the 3rd time when you fail, okay, that was your rehab. That's like you did 3 reps. Then help yourself out with your right arm or whatever you need to do. But until then, like use it. Stop thinking it's not there. That's another thing I've noticed, you know, like, and she's holding onto the walker, and when she walks, she lets go of the right and she starts turning her whole body, and like her arm's right here still. And I'm like, whoa, whoa, whoa. So I'm like, think of your left first. That comes off, that turns, and then go with the right. So because I've been in this for 7 years, I'm teaching her these things. And I can see why somebody who has a caregiver that isn't experienced like me, they would not be thinking like I am. Like trying to teach her how to do it in a training way, in a set, in a rep, you know, or how to use your body the ways that you would use it in a gym to help benefit you. Like I'm noticing her legs atrophying, you know, with the muscle and the knees. She's hyperextending her knees. So I'm instantly thinking, okay, we need to strengthen your muscle. We need to do this. We need to do that. A caregiver that has no experience, I can see how it'd be so, they don't know what to do.
And I know your mom, she's tough. She's a tough bird. But she's very
Stubborn too.
Well, but in some ways, she's very, very not only vulnerable but very weak.
Yeah, right now.
Now, I don't mean weak as in her strength. I mean weak-minded.
Yeah.
She's actually in more trouble than she thinks.
And then the stroke doesn't help that, right?
Well, no, because that's exactly what's taking her down. My concern, listening to what you're saying, is that she's not doing anything. You said yesterday she sat in that wheelchair all day without doing any kind of rehab.
Yeah, because it doesn't dawn on her. She's just living.
How in the fuck can it not dawn on you when you're impaired?
Because she's already. Because get this, so she was in the hospital for a month without me there, in rehab without me there, and I think so. Technically, she's been living this way for a couple of months, and I don't think that the physical therapist, the nurses were like, "Hey, like let's think of that side." So she just started learning these bad habits before she even came home. So now she just doesn't think about it. You know, that's at least what I'm thinking.
I think you're at real crossroads right now, and she is too. You know, you got to find some way. I think you're on the right path in that we have a banner up here on our wall. Do it right, and I think you need to get her down to, because she's what I'm hearing from you is and this is not unusual. People don't like to fail. It makes you feel shitty.
I think that's just in life, period. Like nobody wants to take a chance. They always are held back from fear with everything.
Yeah, and then
because you think you're gonna fail.
Yeah, and it makes you feel in a way that it stops you from moving forward. Mm-hmm. You're afraid to do that. You know, it becomes a head game. And but I think you just have to get her down to where I think you need to keep asking her, what's your outcome? What's the long game? What's your stated goal, Mom? Mm-hmm. And you have to somehow, I think, make her own the position and the situation that she's in, because she's not doing that. The stuff that you're telling me right now in this, it's like she's
still in the middle. Like she doesn't know what
she's putting her
where
hands
she's
in.
at here.
You need to get me better.
Mm-hmm.
I need to get me better. You need to help me. I need to get better.
Yeah.
And then I have to show that action and not sitting in a fucking chair all day long, not doing any rehab at all.
Yeah. So then we had this conversation yesterday, and I was hard. I was tough. Like Charlie says, I was like really, really tough, but I had to get her to see like what she was doing wrong and what she needed to be doing instead. And it hurt her. And I could tell that, you know, she was overwhelmed. She was kind of disappointed in herself. And then it was like, from that point on, the rest of the evening, we were treating her the way that I talked about. Like I was not helping her with a lot of things. She was struggling. She dropped soap everywhere. She attempted it 4 times and it just went flying and this
Only
and that.
4 times?
And I just sat there and watched her. And I'm like, it's hard for us because we're sitting here
right.
watching them fail. I'm seeing her get frustrated. She started crying. And I just stood there and I was like, I have to let her keep trying.
It's a hard deal.
So she's crying and she's trying. And then she's like washing her hands and still crying. And I'm just like, oh my God. And I have a heart. So I feel so bad, but I'm like, I have to watch you do this. I have to let you do that. And then I remember you teaching me about your dad, like when he was starting to walk and you're like, hey, like, do you want to do this or not? And he told you, I don't want to do this. I want to just be this way. Leave me alone. I'm fine this way.
Yeah.
So I used that day. I was like, I looked at her and I was like, I know that this is hard. You tell me right now, do you want to just live this way or do you want to get back to the way you were before it? Because that's the harder road and it's going to suck and you're going to cry a lot. And she was like, I don't want to live this way. And I said, then that's the decision you have to make. And that's just what we have to do.
Well, and then I would say, look, then your actions have to be speaking louder than your words, because here's what happens when you make that statement.
Yeah.
You have to be proactive. What does that mean? That you don't sit in your chair all day and not do anything. She's not 10. She's not a kid. Yeah. She has to do it herself to some degree, and to have you guys support that.
I personally don't know why she had to have me get to that point, because I wonder if I would have let this go for another month before I kind of exploded like that and was like, okay, enough's enough. It would have probably kept going. But then today she called me and she was like, I did this on my own. I did this on my own. I've been walking around. I already did my rehab. I'm doing this. I'm doing that. And I was like, wow, this is amazing. Like, it's amazing that you're doing all this stuff.
Maybe you should.
But how long would it have had to go before you did that?
Yeah.
And I went home and she was walking by herself, like without my sister's assistance, which I didn't recommend, but they're taking a leap even further than I would have. And she was walking around with some food in her hand, getting herself some milk and stuff. And I was like, okay, we're getting somewhere.
I think if she can do stuff like that, she's being proactive, then it's up to you to make sure that she's doing it right.
Yeah.
because
that's a whole different story.
Real easy to develop bad habits.
Exactly.
Bad habits come naturally. The good ones, you got to train like crazy.
Oh my God. So then, coming from a person who trains stroke survivors, I realized, so she came home without these bad habits that some of my stroke survivors have. And I was like, wow, this is really good that you're not doing this and you're not doing this and you're not doing that. Because if so, it'd be a whole different thing that we'd have to be rehabbing you for. And the more the days go by, I'm seeing her get those habits. Like her arm is staying right here now instead of being flat like it was. Her walk, her foot's starting to drop. And I was like, I'm watching these habits like start right in front of my face. Like we have to catch these right now.
Yeah, but like you said, she had no real physical activity for like the first month. So she was already like leaning on dependence over independence. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And then them keeping her in the bed like that when she wanted to get out.
Yeah.
You're already making her like mindset go into a.
You know, that's the reason why. And again, you don't have to be an athlete or bodybuilder. I said it before, bodybuilding saved my life in a lot of ways, especially in my recovery, because nothing's been harder than to recover from my stroke. It's in my head every day to some degree, because my body, I can tell you this, my body will never work the same as it did, but that doesn't mean that I'm not 100% recovery.
Yeah.
But it'll never work the same. And I know that. And that pisses me off, you know, and that's the kind of stuff that stops people, you know. So I'm lucky that I had, you know, my sport and my background, because it takes forever to put on muscle, you know, that kind of thing. So you kind of are in that mode, and that's what people suffer from, because they're not used to that, and you find them giving up. I mean, I would just think, if I was your mom, but I'm thinking from a different mindset. I would think that she would just be, you have to be holding her back constantly because she wants to get better. I'd rather have somebody who has that mindset where I have to slow them down than for me to like constantly keep on them.
Personally, yes, I would rather that too, because I feel like I'm living for myself and her. Like I'm watching her at the side of my eye, like making sure she's doing what she's supposed to be doing and how she's supposed to be doing it, and like she's not missing the opportunity to rehab herself. You know what I mean? Instead of just kind of living my life. What were you gonna say?
I think I read though. I think you guys are in the, well, you're just talking what if, but Leo, you're actually, I think you're on the lower stage, as in a lot of people don't do what you did. Usually I think this, like, I hate to talk like this, but the suicide rate goes up like dramatically for people that have survived a stroke, like 70% or something.
I believe it.
And I would understand it.
And only 10% make a full recovery.
Almost a full recovery.
Almost a full recovery. 90% of stroke survivors live with an impairment the rest of their lives.
Or they live depending on other people.
Yeah.
Forever.
So like, and I told her that, and like we were having a serious conversation when she was like having a meltdown, and I was like, do you want to be that 90%, or do you want to be a part of the 10? I was like, because the odds of you being a part of that 10 are very slim. Like you have to just know that right now. Like the odds are so against you. And I mean, I was hoping that she just bring it to light just a little different for her, because she saw you do it. So if you think about it, the only stroke survivor she's ever met has made a full recovery. She's never met any of the other ones. So for her, she probably thinks it's just going to happen like it did with you.
Yeah.
But I'm like, no, he's like 1 out of 10 that I've worked with. So she did say one day though, she's like, I want to go to work with you one day. And I was like, oh, really? At 6 a.m. in the morning? I was like, what are you going to do for 6 hours? And she was like, well, I just want to sit there and watch your stroke survivors, and then maybe I could train with you after. Yeah. But what I really heard was she wants to see. She just wants to see other people, you know? And I can see why like a stroke support group would be a good thing for these people, because then they can, you know, see someone else is going through the same thing that they're going through. Yeah, it's not just them.
Like Jerry that was here today. And I can see immediately how it makes him feel better when he's talking about his physiology. It's like he does nothing. He goes, I do nothing. I lift, you know, lightweight or do nothing, and I'm like wiped out. And when I told him, it's like, it took me years to get past that. Yeah. Oh, good. You know, I'm not different. I can see how that makes a difference. I'm just very concerned for your mom and what she's not doing right now on her own. That bothers me. as
Mhm.
someone who's, cares about that recovery. It bothers me that your actions are not, they're not in line with your words. I
Mhm.
want to get better, but I'm not doing anything to create that solution. That's what bothers me.
But that's life. That's like not even something as serious as that. That's like
Somebody who's
people
obese.
yeah, I was gonna say people losing weight. Like
Oh yeah,
I'm really unhappy eating, but I eat all the
It's
time.
easy to take the path that's least
the path of least resistance compared to the path
It is.
least traveled.
But that's why I told her, I was like, like you're really lucky to have me. And I don't mean that in like a weird way. It's just, you're lucky to have me because I have experienced this for 7 years. I have worked with Leo. I know it on a different level, and I told her, I was like, just think of people that don't have me, don't have a caregiver like this. They're just going to see these things that you're doing and they're not going to think anything of it. And then now you just created a whole different bad habit.
I guess what I'm just saying here too is that you need to get on the ball and figure out, what I was going to say to you is maybe what you should do is come up with like a list of 5 things that she needs to do daily. This is your daily chore that you need to do for yourself.
So I did. And I think I learned this from you. I don't know. I've learned everything from you. But one example, like, my dog, she's super loving. And she goes by my mom all the time to get pet. But my mom pushes Bailey. When my mom pushes her away. And I was like, why are you pushing her away? And she's like, I don't want to pet her. And I was like, anytime Bailey comes up to you, you pet her with your left hand, at least 5 strokes.
Yeah, so you make it,
make it so now, so last night I saw her, anytime Bailey went and nudged her hand, I was like, she's reminding you to rehab.
Give her something fun. If that was me, I'd be like,
stop it.
I'm definitely not gonna fucking get out of here. Get out of here.
Stop it.
So Charlie,
so little things like that,
Yeah. Anyway, Charlie, what are you afraid of failing?
Yeah.
Is it a motivator for you, or is it something that
discourages you?
Yeah, for sure. It stops me.
But on a sort of an objective and rational, logical level, if you, and this is a fact, the path to success is through failure.
Me and Mike have talked about this several times, and he's always been afraid of not failing, of winning, like accomplishing. And I'm the opposite though. I don't want to put my hands in anything I feel like I'm gonna fail in. I'm just like, waste of time.
But that's both scenarios. People are afraid of failing and they're afraid of succeeding, because comes consequences with that. When you succeed, then it's like, how long can I maintain this level of being successful? And that scares people. They're afraid to do that, just like they're afraid to fail. That's just what he said. And yet, it's funny how our brains are. A brain is like the most powerful. Thought is the most powerful thing in the world. And you would think that we could just logically say, "Look, I have to fail in order to get better," and yet it paralyzes most people.
That's something I'm scared of, because you even told me, you're like, something's gonna happen. Like, she's gonna fall eventually.
Yeah.
That is what I'm scared of, because I feel like we've gotten to this point, and then I broke it yesterday. She's been kicking butt. I mean, since yesterday, like kicking ass, honestly.
And the first time she really fails, it's gonna make her go miles backwards.
Like, she's doing things. She's like, I've got this. Like, I motivated her so much. She's at 100 right now, and I'm waiting because I already know, like, her foot kind of does this thing, and I was like, I already know that she's gonna go forward. Her foot's gonna get caught on it, and she's gonna go forward. And I've even told her, you're gonna do that. Like, I'm telling you right now, just be aware of it. Just protect your head. I was like, when you fall, protect your head. And she was like, how do I do that? I was like, I don't know. Just do it. But I know when that happens, then she'll start getting that shaky thing when she's walking. And
it's so weird.
Oh my gosh.
Like, to me, my big fall was when I decided to go ride the bike in my neighborhood. I was doing great until I came to my driveway and I slowed down. And then I had to put my fucking foot down.
He didn't realize he had to stop. When you get on a bike, you go, but he didn't realize that you have to eventually stop the bike and get off.
But the thing that I didn't do is I didn't lean on my good side. The bike went the other way. Man, and I fall hard.
That goes to show, though, like, if you couldn't stop yourself, and if your mom does hit her head, when we go to fall, like, act like you're saying you trip over your foot and you're going to fall forward without thinking, your hands.
Yeah.
That's a natural. So if your body is not even your natural instinct ain't even kicking in, then you have to realize how hard that must be
It's
to
gonna
go
be
out
so
of your
hard.
way to move.
But let me tell you what happened to me that I learned. Now this is a little bit more down the recovery road, but still impaired. This has been a couple of years ago that I learned this. I had a situation like that where I had to respond just without thinking. My fucking body worked like it was supposed to. And I wonder if I could do it. Sometimes I think we think too much.
Uh-huh.
And I was
possible.
thinking that must have been what happened because my body worked exactly like it was supposed to. It was a fall or something that I took that I had to, position myself with my hands, and it surprised me.
Mhm.
And so I often wonder,
Yeah.
am I getting in my own way?
Yeah,
Because I think we do.
I'm sure.
possibly. And I even told her, I was like, your worst enemy right now is yourself. Like you are the only one that's holding you back from this recovery. I was,
You just said it about the succeeding and failing. Your thought is like, it's more powerful than anything.
Yeah, it really is. And you would think to some degree we can handle that, but something, it's like anything else that you try to overcome. It's not as easy as you might think. I think that's kind of the point of this, because why couldn't you just logically, if you know that you have to fail to get better, why can't you just do that?
Fail a million times until you,
Why, I know if I tell you you have to fail in order to get better, then why wouldn't you want to do that?
You know why? Because I think that's one for sure. People don't like being embarrassed, but I think there's a difference if you're like, hey, you're gonna fail 100 times at this and it'll be good. If someone could say, hey, did my internet stop? No?
Go, do it again.
It did stop, huh? Okay, if someone said, hey, you're gonna fail 100 times, but there was no ending, I don't know if someone would want to. But if you told someone, hey, you're gonna fail 100 times, but then you're gonna be professional and amazing at it, the best in the world, everyone would do it.
Yeah.
okay,
You know what I mean?
maybe, possibly, but would you believe them without seeing proof? Because that's you trusting something. No, because it's the same
The
thing.
fuck? What's up with these questions all the time?
When you told me, remember with bodybuilding, you have to believe that there's a muscle and mind connection. And you're like, I believed it. And I wanted to believe it as a bodybuilder that down the road I would look this way because that's what they tell me.
Mhm.
But until it actually had to be something you witnessed, you didn't really, believe it.
That's called, I think I was just believing in blind faith.
Yeah, so believing in blind faith. So would you really believe with blind faith, or would you question it and then not do that? What if like the fifth failure, you're like, okay, really, are they really sure? Like, do I really believe them?
You know what? Working out is a great one because that's like, I'm gonna put years into this, and am I gonna look like I want to? That's a really good one.
It's a tough
That's
deal.
good.
It is.
Yeah, you have to believe it before you see it,
Yeah.
instead
Or like
of seeing it before you believe it.
even with a trainer, your
Uh-huh.
trainer's like, hey, I can get you to lose 4 to 8 pounds a month.
Yeah,
Let's get some money going and let's do this. You have to believe
before you see
that
it.
they're going to do that and that you're going to put all this hard work into it and then be at that point. That's a lot.
It is a lot.
But we've noticed as personal trainers, there's some that will believe it and take that risk. And then there's some that are like,
it's too much work.
yeah,
It's too much work to get there. This is kind of like,
because we'll fail. I know that I'll break the diet.
This is how similar it is, like with people that are stroke survivors and even people that are just there in the gym. It's that same mindset.
Why is like training and bodybuilding relate to everything?
Well,
it's all so
kinda,
similar.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy that way.
It is.
You know?
But yeah. I will say though, to end the podcast on a good note, I will
Who
say,
says we're ending it?
because we have 2 to do, so we need to end one. I will say, after I talked to her, she impressed me a lot. And today I heard that she's doing 100% better. So I will give her that. And I can't wait to see. I did walk into the house to get Liam today, and she was really far from my sister doing her own thing.
It's good.
And I was like, okay, like that's amazing.
Day by day.
I will give
Day
her
by
that.
day.
Brick
So,
by
like,
brick.
you know,
That's my saying. Brick by brick.
when people come in and start training and they're like, yeah, woo,
Yeah.
I've got this. And then within 7 days, they run out of that energy.
Honeymoon phase is
Yeah.
over.
I don't want her to end.
Yeah.
Is that how it goes? Because mine,
Your
Mine was
honeymoon
so
phase and
opposite.
the
I
working
remember-
out was like what? How many days was his
No,
honeymoon phase
mine
and
was
working out?
reversed though. Think about it. Like the first week, I was like, I hate both of you guys and I hate my life. It was like the second or third week that I was like, hey, I'm starting to like this. And then one little thing came up and I was like, okay, I'm done.
Is that it? Or why were you coming again?
What do you mean?
Why were you coming into the gym? Was it a bet?
How do we finish this? Yeah.
Let's talk about that on the next podcast.
Okay.
Okay.
We-
On that
We
note,
out. We out.
that's definitely in the next podcast.